know how long I'll be able to go, like, talking about this, because I've been addressing this, over the past couple of days. I've been talking a lot about Dragon Quest Monsters, The Dark Prince, right? Wait, which, interesting. Okay. Like, I've been talking a lot about my views on Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince. I've been saying to people that, like, yeah, this game, lots of problems, lots of issues with it, but I'm a huge Dragon Quest fan. I've been addicted to, like, the grind and the gameplay loop and things like that. I like the monster designs. I like the general combat system. I like the like, I like a. It's so weird that this game exists, that I playing it, 25 hours in now, over the past couple of weeks, and yeah, it is it is legit real talk. Probably the worst game I've played for any significant amount of time in years. Yeah, right. I can't think of anything that I've been frustrated with more, that I hated more, that was like bored me to tears as much. Like, I can't think of anything like as bad as this. Like, the way things are looking now, Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince is probably going to be the worst game I've finished in a very, very long time. And the way things are looking now that I'm like 2/3 of the way through the game, I went through like the ridiculous plot twist, right? I confronted the hero, right? You know, I now that I've gotten a significant way through the game, and now that I have like a feel for what the game is, like what it's built, what it's trying to accomplish, what the game is about, how this works, like this is real talk, maybe one of the worst JRPG plots I've ever seen in my life. I've been going through my collection. I've been thinking, like, do I know of any RPGs that are worse than this? Like, do I know of anything that's worse? Because, like, there are RPGs that I don't like, Mother 3, Golden Sun, like Xenoblade, there are all these games that I don't like, but, like, I don't think any of them have, like, made me irrationally angry the way the Dark Prince has. And I think the issue is that, unlike a lot of those other games, I actually enjoy Dragon Quest Monsters quite a bit. All those other games have a lot of problems that just kind of weigh the entire thing down, and you can just kind of like write them off as just being plain bad, right? But with Dragon Quest Monsters, it's so frustrating because you really get this sense that if they spent a lot of time, fleshing out the mechanics, adding some more things into the game, dealing with some QOL issues, dealing with like the plot specifically, actually allowing you to be Sero the Manslayer instead of doing what you're doing in this game. Sorrow did nothing wrong according to Dragon Quest Monsters: The Dark Prince. Like, if this game actually let you be like the Prince of Darkness, the son of Randolpho or whatever, like it would have been really, really interesting, I think, like being like the anti-Dragon Quest game, right? Where you're the evil overlord trying to stop the heroes and like destroy humanity because of how they've wronged you in the past, because of how they mess with your waifu, right? Because of what they've done, right? Like, I think that might have been actually pretty interesting. But Dragon Quest seems completely incapable of like going in that direction. They have to like kind of go full on like Sero did nothing wrong, and they have to like bend over backwards, and like it's so frustrating because the way this game is presented, the way it's like it emphasizes itself, like it very much wants you to think that it's taking place in the continuity of Dragon Quest 4, right? Like it has all the iconic scenes with like Sero in it in uh in from Dragon Quest 4, but like they completely make no sense like in context of what's happening in the Dark Prince. Like honestly, when like the game reminded me that like I'm supposed to be Sorrow the Manslayer, the person who's going to bring about the end of humanity, I was legit confused by it, right? Because I was legit confused by it because like I was I was like, okay, I was legit confused by it because you're making friends, you're going through the typical Dragon Quest stuff. You have like a girlfriend who's top tier, by the way. Rose is like an amazing love interest. I just love her in general. Like I love her in Dragon Quest 4 and I love her in this. Generally speaking, right? You have all this stuff. And like you're going around being like an objectively good person, and then like out of nowhere you're just like, all right, time to destroy humanity. Time to get these tools that I'm going to use to destroy humanity. Time to rally against the against the heroes that are trying to protect humanity. Let's reject the Zenith Dragons plan. To side with the heroes, like for no adequately explained. Like I don't even understand why it plays out this way. It's so unbelievably frustrating seeing this play out and seeing like the game just railroad you in this ridiculous fashion, right? I could understand, playing as Sorrow the Manslayer. I can see the appeal of that. I want to do it now that I've played the game. But like that's not what this is, right? This game has you running around in empty fields, randomly like subjugating monsters, like bringing them over to your side, and then like you don't do anything really except fight stronger monsters, right? There is no nuance, there is no like discussion on like no real analysis on like what Sarah wants to do and why he wants to do. Like it just kind of happens, and it's so contrived sometimes, like the way this plays out. Rose is just kind of like going like, Sorrow, don't wipe out humanity. She's like surprised that you like finally go through with it, that you like mess with the hero, that you like that you confront him, like she's like surprised by this, that you're like going to wipe out humanity, even though you're not keeping it a secret from her. You're like taking her on dates, and you're just kind of like, yeah, my life goal is to wipe out the human race, and she's just like, don't do that, TTE. But she's like weirdly into it, right? Like she keeps insisting that like, oh no, we can't do that. That's mean. But then she's like completely head over heels in love with you anyway. It's so ridiculous. Like she takes liking bad boys to like the logical extreme, okay? Like she doesn't care that you're a mass murdering psychopath. Like she can fix you, man. Like she knows that you're a good person deep down, and that she can fix you. And it doesn't really happen. It doesn't really happen. You basically destroy the world anyway. And then through some like convoluted methods, like through the most contrived like circumstances I've ever seen. Oh, you just go back in time, and this time you're not going to exterminate humanity. Like really, really, it's like the dumbest thing in the world. Like they really could have made this really interesting like subversive Dragon Quest thing where you're the antagonist going up against the heroes, right? I was like kind of surprised at like how little the hero features in this. Like you get like some surprisingly good like moments with him, right? You have stuff that should be like with like Sorrow like striking down, well, with the you going to the village and stuff like that, and like where he is and stuff like that, and like him setting off on his journey, and then him like going off. But like the way it looks, like the hero like gathers all of his allies and just comes to fight you in like legit a fraction of the time it took you to like build up your forces. It makes no sense how quick the progression is. I guess the hero is like really, really, really strong, and he has, of course, like all of the those powerful forces on the planet or whatever. You know, I was kind of, but like you don't see any of these characters like in any context. Like you see the hero during like the village strike scene. You see Eliza, but like you don't even like see her like you see her running away, like you see her silhouette, like you see her model from a distance, like kind of running away, and then like she dies. She's like posing as the hero, and she just dies, and like you don't they don't have a moment together. There's nothing. Like it's just something that should have been pure Kino, right? Emphasizing just what it is you're fighting against. You know, the real legit heroes who are trying to stop you. Like that should have been interesting, but you know, you don't confront them at all, right? You don't really rationalize them all. You don't fight them. Like you face them down at one point, and like it looks like you're about to fight, and then it's just like, oh no, Rose has gotten kidnapped. So you go away to like back to Rose, and like you find her there, right? Like you're told that like, oh, she's been taken by the humans, but she's still in the tower. But then you're told like, oh no, Rose is an imposter, and it's like kind of obvious what happened. You know that like this Rose is an imposter, right? You know, I saw through this right away. It was so contrived. So like, you know, I call her out on her nonsense, but then the game like railroads me into this thing where like the imposter fakes cries like a ruby tear, and then the game goes through this extended sequence where like the real Rose dies, and you go full Sorrow the Manslayer, and you like take on the Secret of Evolution and become like the monster, the final boss of Chapters of the Chosen, and then the hero kills you in these like JPEG image cutscenes, and then in the most contrived situation imaginable, you just go back. Like it was completely unnecessary. Like I saw through the ruse immediately. Like why did I have to do this thing where I had to pretend that like I was so stupid that I couldn't see through like the imposter, right? Like, oh man, you're not a nobody would side against Rose. Like, I did. You know, I don't I don't take what Rose says seriously. Like, come on, bro. Like, I was mad at her anyway for the whole like don't kill humanity thing. Like what is she talking about? Like why would you ever believe that? Like it doesn't make any sense. Like nothing about that sequence made any sense. Like whenever the game like tries to have a real serious story, whenever it tries to tie into Dragon Quest IV, like they drop the ball in the most unimaginably terrible way imaginable. It is ridiculous how like out of sync it is with Chapters of the Chosen, right? Like characters do things in one moment and then flip around and do like another thing the moment. Like Rose is like questioning your motives like very early on, right? Like, oh, you're not really gonna destroy humanity, are you? But then like she still goes on your adventures with you, and like she acts pretty normal around you when you're not like actively working towards that goal on like in the human world, right? Like she's actively like complicit in like everything you're doing up until it comes time to like actually pull the trigger and like exterminate humanity or whatever. Like how is she this stupid? Like again, she loves the bad boy apparently. Like she's such a pure-hearted person, she really thinks she can change him. But like it doesn't happen. It takes her dying and like time being rewound for like anything to change. And it's like again, it would have been Kino if like she legit was able to do it in like a satisfactory way, but it just doesn't happen, right? Instead, it's just like it's the most contrived circumstance imaginable. Like everything about how this plot was handled was completely wrong. Yeah, they could have done way better, right? Way better with this. And it's so frustrating just thinking back to how much I love Dragon Quest IV. It's probably my second favorite Dragon Quest game as of now. Like I really like that game. I just think it's really good. Um, I I think I think the I think the characters deserve better than this. And not just Sorrow and Rose, but like, you know, the Chosen themselves, right? You know, the Zenith Dragon, you know, like Dragon Quest 4 as a whole, right? Like how cool would it have been to just, you know, actually be the bad guy in a Dragon Quest game? You know, actually be able to do the things you supposedly did in the original release. But no, it doesn't do that at all. Like it doesn't it doesn't allow you to be a bad person. Like it's like completely goes against what the game should have been about, which is about Sorrow the Manslayer. It just doesn't drive with me at all. It's so frustrating to see them drop the ball like this, and I really hope this isn't gonna translate over to Dragon Quest 12. I doubt it will because like 11 was pretty solid, like all things considered. But like I don't know, like all of these Dragon Quest spin-offs games, like all of this Square Enix stuff, like all this stuff on Switch in particular, like it's all low budget. It's all like really iffy. There's always these weird things about it. Triangle strategy. Had that weird bit with those guys who like say they were gonna help you and then they don't, right? You have all those like weird story elements, like the weird pacing. Like, Octopath Traveler 2 has like those completely contrived plots that make no sense. There's so much wrong with Octopath Traveler 2. Like, I still have no desire to return to that game. And I love the original, right? There are just so many examples of them dropping the ball in recent years, and it's so frustrating that like people give them a pass in a lot of ways. I just don't see how anybody could look at this game and call it good. Like I put 25 hours into it. Like I am the target audience. I love this kind of thing. But like when I look at the experience, when I look at like how much time I spent just like watching battles play out, so I could beat a boss. When I like see how uninvolved I am in the plot and the characters, how much I hate them, in a lot of ways. Like you end up just feeling like this is the biggest train wreck like I've ever seen in my life in a lot of ways. Right. So like the game is just like a complete disaster. Okay. Like I am not kidding when I say this. Scarlet and Violet Pokemon had a way better plot. Right. They had way better mechanics. They had way better monster designs. They were way more fun to play. They evolved the formula more. Like it's crazy how Dragon Quest Monsters like has been around for like 25 years, and yet hasn't really innovated the way Pokemon has. Like it just feels like to me that this franchise really should have established itself as like a really solid, like good alternative to Pokemon. One with more, like a more solid JRPG structure, with a more solid just design and like everything like those games do. Like there should have been like a real push to make this thing a success. But like every time I see something like this, it's always some low budget thing that is never really going to take off anywhere. Like I just don't I don't see how anybody who isn't a huge Dragon Quest fan would get into this particular release. Like if you're looking to get into Dragon Quest on Switch, play 11. Like just download the demo for it. You'll be hooked for sure. I love 11, but like again, how hard is it really to make a good video game? Like it's just so frustrating. I was legit going to pass on the Dark Prince because I wasn't impressed with it, with the way it looked, and yeah, I think my instinct on it was correct. Like I could have skipped on this game and just lost absolutely nothing. Like I really think that game was very disappointing, right? Like I think I'm just so underwhelmed by it. I really don't care for it at all. Let's see. Like there are. Oh, Under Night in Birth is not doing well. Let's see. Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think the next Switch game I'm looking forward to is probably Mario versus Donkey Kong. We're also getting like Tomb Raider 1 through 3 remastered, which I'm really looking forward to. That'll be interesting. to actually have Tomb Raider on a Nintendo console. Really looking forward to that. I think that's like this week or is it next week? I don't remember, but yeah, that'll be coming out soon. So like, I'm hoping the next batch of Switch games that come out are great because it feels like for a long time like we've been just slogged with just absolute like schlock. Like didn't WarioWare wasn't as good as it could have been. Super Mario RPG was great, but it was kind of short. Mario Wonder, like I don't think I've played like a legit great Switch game since Mario Wonder came out. And that was like 3 months ago. So yeah, it's been like kind of a long stretch. Like probably the longest stretch of like no major Switch releases that I've been like really, really into since like 2018. And to be fair, like I think the big focus in 2023 was like on the DLC. Like Mario Kart 8 came out. Pokemon had DLC. Like, there were DLC campaigns I liked, but it's like, okay, like I prefer new games. Like I don't really think a DLC will ever really get me coming back. Smash Bros. Ultimate didn't like when I'm done with the base game, I'm done totally. I just don't care for DLC all that much. Okay, so but yeah, it's almost the end of January, and we'll have Mario vs. Donkey Kong in 3 weeks. So that will be something I'm really looking forward to. Oh yes, yeah, I played Splatoon 3 last night. I went back into playing that, and it is spectacular. I was really really surprised with how much I enjoyed Splatoon 3. I keep saying this every time I pop the game back in, but like it really is like this endlessly just fun multiplayer game. Like people do not give them enough credit for how much they've been able to keep the game relevant in recent years. I just don't think. I think people are just really desperate to write the game off. Again, I was kind of surprised by it. Like when I came back to it, in preparation for the DLC, just how much fun I was having. Like I tend to like not be the kind of person to play longer than like 45 minutes or so. But like every time I do, it's an absolute blast. I wish I had more time to play it. It feels like this is the way I play Splatoon, where I come back every couple of months and just spend an entire weekend playing it. I think that's gonna be what happens, like leading up until side order releases. That we're just gonna pop the game in every stream, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna talk about this. We're gonna talk about like everything the game is doing, and just kind of stay up to date with what makes it great. I feel I definitely feel as if Splatoon 3 is one of those Switch games that kind of proves that the Nintendo Switch is never, ever, ever going to run out of steam. Like, this one release could probably carry the Switch for, like, the next couple of years. It really is that good. It was pretty successfully written off. Only now am I seeing people with, like, admit it's a top-tier Switch game, right? And again, like, it shouldn't have taken this long, right? Like, why do we have to wait like 3 or 4 years, 6 years in Breath of the Wild's case, to admit that like these games are like top tier? Like, why do we have to wait that long? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like every single time these games come out, like everyone says they're bad or whatever, and like the narrative just doesn't stick, right? Pokemon, I think, being the premier example at this point. But okay, let's yeah, apparently Under Night in Birth is crashing, interestingly. It's back to Tekken for me then. Okay, let's see here. Okay. Angry Joe. Disappointing games. Okay. He actually uploaded his top 10 most disappointing games. I mean, we have nothing else to do, so why don't we react to this? Angry Joe.
Welcome to my office. Please have a seat right there. I brought you here today to tell you that personally, I am very, very disappointed. Because these are the top 10 most disappointing games of 2023.
He's gonna put Starfield at #1 for sure. Like, let's be real here. Like, realistically, Hogwarts Legacy should be on there. Realistically, like, Starfield should be on there. I'm curious, like, what he's gonna do, like, what he's gonna talk about. Uh,
Number 10. We gotta see which one of these guys survives.
Total War, really? It's like he can't resist putting Total War on like every single one of these lists. It's like it's the only game he plays. I think he put like 2 of them in his top 10 best games of 2023 list, right? Like, it's crazy how he won't shut up about these games.
And then the one on the right, he's got the high ground. Spears are OP. Oh shit, here comes our guy. I can't keep track of him. This guy, he's still alive. He's still alive. I don't remember the other guy quit. He's like, who do I fight? Who do I fight? I don't know who to fight. I'll fight this guy. He's still. Hold on, Chad. Hold on. This is other Joe's guy. This is other Joe's guy. Don't lose track of him. He's not doing anything. Oh, there he goes. He's hitting his own people. So what happens when you provide your fans with a game and a time period that nobody asked for?
Barrow has pre-order cosmetic packs for the first time in the series, a narrow, underrepresented campaign map, Bronze Age collapse but with little mention of the Sea People invaders so far, gimmicky features that make little impact to gameplay like dynamic weather or an arbitrary outpost system, a tech tree that buffs up resource production, battle effectiveness without any real technological or cultural progression, a lack of trade as a major mechanic in an era known for the first major trading network in the Mediterranean, immortal faction leader focused campaign gameplay and narrative design, the same bland, uninteresting battles, especially with problems like unit collisions still present, and $60 for less than half a Bronze Age Total War nobody asked for.
Total War, Pharaoh? And what happens when you overcharge for this lukewarm entry? But I would already rather play any other Total War, honestly, so now I see why some people are upset at $60. Those simultaneous turns, that ruins a lot. The battles themselves, because of the variety, are kind of
Especially
boring.
when you play with multiple.
He sounds so exhausted whenever he has to talk about these games. He sounds so bored. Oh, man.
Number 9.
Wouldn't want to be Angry Joe right now.
There's a sniper!
Payday 3? Oh, yeah, that game you went on there and, like, shilled for. Like, I know you were flown out to New York or whatever and gave this, like, positive publicity. I wonder if he acknowledges that in the video. Let's watch this.
Sniper down, let's go.
Just go right over here. Those lights.
Yep, that's so much hit. Grab.
It's been lit. The beacon has been lit.
Alright, now what? Payday 3. How? How does a formula so simple get botched at release this bad? Did you not develop and learn from Payday 1? From Payday 2? Alex, OJ, and I played Payday 3 this year, and it being my first Payday, I really enjoyed the concept and the experience. And your ass, Joe, if I knew what I was doing, this is my first time playing, I thought it was fun, I thought it was hilarious, I thought it was great. I feel like a tank, but then there's just so many cops, and then just shooting, and it's amazing. It's chaotic. It's
I'm
fun.
really curious if
I
he's going to mention
why this was a
early
hit for
access.
many, and how it had become the definitive heist first-person shooter on the market, with legions of fans, and those instantly recognizable masks. And don't get me wrong, I think Payday 3 is fun, I love its gunplay, and our early build seemed functional enough. I had no idea, though, that all the dysfunction lurking at full release.
Yeah, the early build that you were flown out to play, right? You were shilling for this game when during the launch period. You were one of its like biggest advocates, and you're like downplaying that entire situation. Like, yeah, you're downplaying your involvement in putting this game out there to the masses, right? Ah.
Release, mostly broken matchmaking, always online bullshit with no offline mode options, bugs, performance issues.
Isn't that true for every Payday though? Like, I don't think Payday 2 has offline features.
And server-side crap.
Finally here, and it's functional at least 20% of the time. A new record for modern game release. A real video game. Matchmaking error, baby! Woo! As many of you may know, Payday 3 had a bit of a disastrous launch.
This game had a horrifyingly bad launch that you thought, okay, it will get better and they'll right the ship. Well, it got worse. Several updates later, and it still wasn't in the best shape.
There is no offline gameplay.
Yeah, so he's not acknowledging like his role in promoting that game. Like, how disgusting is that?
I have not lost. I have not lost his points. His points are fine. Fucking bullshit. Fucking hate this game. This is torture. This is just torture.
Hey everyone, welcome to another rapid fire review, this time from Lords of the Fallen.
Lords of the Fallen. Where Lies of P succeeded, Lords of the Fallen failed. There are some great elements to the game for sure. I personally think it looks awesome. Alex loves the challenges that these games provide and told me how much he wanted to love this game, and
So he's straight up like putting games on this list that he didn't even play now. Like, he's blatantly doing it. Like, God, no! Joe, no!
want to make sure I give it the
I've always said this was the case, but like, it's weird to see him like straight up allude to it in a video.
props for what it does well, but there's definitely problems.
And I really tried to give it a chance, didn't I?
Citing Asmongold? Oh, come on, bro. I hate how all these people are parasites. Leeching off each other. Okay. Okay, what's next? What's next?
What the hell happens when evil finally arrives and confronts the traveler?
Destiny 2. Destiny 2 is on a list of the most disappointing games of 2024. Hey, here's an idea, Joe. Here's an idea, Joe. Like, the Destiny review is one of your most viewed videos ever. You know why? Because the original Destiny was a complete and abject failure. If you still have enthusiasm for the Destiny IP in 2024, you yourself are the problem. I just don't understand why it's taken so long for people to realize that, like, yeah, these games are not getting better.
Systems are linked. With 80% of defenses now operational. I'm full of fury, she's got an army, and you got magic green strings. Let's crush this callous guy. Welcome to Neo Muna.
This looks terrible. It really does. Who looks at this and thinks it's, like, cool and badass?
Destiny 2 Lightbringer. Why is this above a bad game? Well, because people expected more, and it's from a well-known AAA developer.
Another bit of time.
Bungie hasn't produced anything relevant since Halo. You need to stop pretending as if there's some top-tier FPS studio. They never were and never will be.
has passed, it is safe to say that the Lightfall expansion is quite easily the most embarrassing release this game has ever had the gall to charge money for.
Destiny 2 Lanebringer was the expansion that broke the camel's back in the Destiny community.
Remember this chick from the last expansion? We technically killed her, but then her ghost got away. Uh-oh. So you're probably wondering where she's at. Wrong. Don't even think about it, and we will not be addressing them.
While it might not have been the worst DLC ever, it certainly was among the most pointless.
Olympus's one-liners being fired off like it's an...
Number 5.
Alright, let's see.
Mortal Kombat 1 on the Switch is a straight-up port.
You gotta love the YouTube gaming community's like unwillingness to acknowledge Mortal Kombat 1's actual problems and instead focus on the Switch version, right? You know, ignore the fact that the franchise has lost its identity, ignore the fact that it was a reboot that didn't need to happen, ignore like the declining writing quality, the stripping away of single player modes, the oncoming, the never-ending onslaught of microtransactions. Let's ignore all of that. You know, let's ignore the actual problem that Mortal Kombat games have been having since 10, and instead focus on the Switch port, which is something that I've noticed that like YouTubers are like really adamant about. Like, oh, this game proves the Switch can't compete in 2024, but 2023. But no, it was always the game itself already was bad in general. Like, why are you not talking about the game's obvious and blatant problems? You know, like, I myself was a Mortal Kombat fan, like, up until 11, but because of the stunts they pulled with it, I dropped off, right? And I'm very proud of dropping off when I did. Because Mortal Kombat 1 looks like a train wreck. And I don't see a lot of people acknowledge it. Like, everyone wants to obsess over the Switch version. The same thing happened to 11, by the way, but, like, yeah, this is the justification that that YouTubers use to call Mortal Kombat 1 disappointment. They focus exclusively on the Switch version, and this is something you'll notice a lot if you've been paying attention to these people. But yeah, like
off of the Switch hardware, and yes, that is as bad of an idea as it sounds. The expressive facial animations of the current gen versions are highly compromised to say the least. Clothing, and sometimes even skin, constantly stretches and clips through body parts, and every so often you can see straight through them. Those absolutely gorgeous stages that I praised in my other review looked like they had a heavy Gaussian blur filter applied to them in Photoshop, and briefly made me think that I needed glasses.
Mortal Kombat 1, the Switch version.
There's a lot of slowdown that affected my timing and led to drop combos, similar to...
Yeah, so he's focusing exclusively on the Switch version. Isn't that insane? Yeah, let's ignore all the other games' problems. Like, that game has sold like 3 million copies. Like, that is a massive drop-off from Mortal Kombat 11. Like, it has nothing to do with the Switch version. And yet, he's, like, pretending as if... No, fuck you, Joe, you parasite.
How it would feel if I was playing online with bad netcode. Only this was playing locally against the CPU. But it is something that I felt to a certain degree in pretty much every match that I played.
And yes, the main version, too.
But the majority of perspective was like, people just lost interest because there was no content. And people didn't like the microtransaction stuff, and people didn't like how buggy the game was, and people didn't like that the online takes forever to find matches, which is still easy. Why
did you start off with complaining about the Switch version, Joe? Like, why didn't you talk about the actual issues to begin with? Why were you so hyper-fixating on the Switch version? Which, by the way, was perfectly capable of running this game, but... Nobody wants to talk about the actual problems. Like, everybody wants to preface everything with, like, oh, the Switch version was terrible. But no, like, the game in general was awful, right? Just like Doom Eternal, just like The Witcher 3, right? Like, the problem is not the Switch, okay? Like, the game itself is just plain bad.
Easily one of the worst parts of the game that I go online and it's hard to actually play this game.
And while this is here mainly for that pathetic Nintendo Switch port that looks so bad it shouldn't even exist,
altogether aggravating way to play what is a great fighting game on other platforms. It quite simply should not have released in this state, and certainly not at a price that's equal to the superior current gen versions. Along with our video showcasing all the fatalities. And for everything else, keep it here on IGN.
Yeah, they really tried like going in hard on the Mortal Kombat 1 thing to downplay the Switch in 2023. Right? I never even got around to talking about the game because like I was so busy, but yeah, I remember how they were like so adamantly pushing this idea that like, oh, the Switch can't run this, the Switch can't run this, but no, that obviously isn't true.
It's actually also here partly for the main game itself. This one fucking hurts me. Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. This is a fatality that you can just do, right? You know, if you know the code. Serious? Please don't tell me this, Alex. I always try to give NetherRealm the benefit of the doubt. I fucking love their games.
Yeah, this game has been so controversial. I completely forgot about like the fatalities. That's crazy. That's crazy that they actually pulled that. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I think the IP is in decline right now. I don't know if they'll ever be able to bounce back from this. Like, wow.
And now they're telling me, betrayal! You're gonna charge $10?
Wait! Oh no, he's literally becoming Spoony. Is he gonna stop like uploading content? Like, wow.
For a fatality. I don't give a fuck if it's Halloween. Let me just take a moment to say I cannot be any more disappointed with my favorite fighting game franchise. They are turning to the dark side, and there doesn't seem to be anything that I can do about it. I always do a Mortal Kombat review. This year, it just felt different. Don't get me wrong, I think the story mode is good as it's ever been. Bro, this 5 minutes is better than anything Amazon has ever done. Fucking Rings of Power is fucking. And this Rings of Power took what, $500 million?
The bet was filled.
So this is guys what we're talking about. Like, we play other fighting games and their story mode is the saddest thing you've ever seen in your entire fucking life. And people are like, what do you expect?
This expected. This is effort. This is time. This is investment. This is who's that?
2 out of 3.
That's okay. Boy, this fucking story mode is fucking
Badass.
amazing. Like, honestly.
I was so hungry. I'm like, let's continue.
I know. This is amazing. We'll continue tomorrow. It's like this high quality movie or Netflix series playing out in its full glory. That team did a wonderful job. I love story mode, and it deserves props. The fighting is solid also. The new cast of characters, while it may not be my favorite, it still makes its case. But the growing cancer of microtransactions and live service tactics, that is what's souring my love for this franchise. We pay $70 for the game.
Well, you didn't pay 70, did you? What'd you pay?
110!
Oh.
I paid 110 because I was like, I want all the DLC characters. I like the game. I like the company. And now I have to pay $120 to get all the fatalities. This is so fucking depressing to see from NetherRealm. I just don't think either NetherRealm or WB can help themselves. It's really disheartening how much more effort was put into trying to trap people in live service engagement loops to just keep us playing and spending than was put into making the game as good as it could possibly be, packed with meaningful.
If only there was a company that did that, Joe. If only there was a company that didn't focus on DLC or exploiting the customers. If only there was a console where that kind of thing was discouraged. And if only there was a company, probably a Japanese one, that produced a number of high quality titles that featured heavy single player content. Like, it'd be crazy if a company like that existed, and you could call it Nintendo, but continue ignoring that company, Joe. Like, continue pretending as if they don't exist.
Content that's worth playing.
Complement all of that shit with like a cameo system that gets figured out pretty quick. A lot of casual fans for NRS games do not like the team stuff. They do not like the fact that you have multiple characters. People don't like that it's a team game. They don't want to have to like learn this stuff. They just want a 1v1 fighting game, and they hope the cameos get removed from the game type stuff. From an overall perspective of like the casual perspective, which is the huge majority of people that will remain interested in MK, it feels like they're just burned out.
The amazing crypt that used to be so fun and all those amazing mini games that Ed Boon would dream up, well, now it's a gambling machine. Sure, there's the overhead map invasions mode, but it's not the same.
And if people are dedicating their time to playing invasions and shit, that stuff is a slog, man. Like that stuff, I couldn't even get past 15 minutes. It's brutal.
It's just hard not to miss the fun and the surprises of previous titles with little hidden cool bits.
The reason video is not getting as much viewership, people just not showing as much interest in MK1, why is that happening? Because this is the first time an NRS game has truly faltered with its casual audience in 10 plus years. So a lot of people just drop the game and just don't have any desire to play more of it, or they're just waiting for content later down the line.
And then when they started selling fatalities, that's when I gave up. That's when I said, no, I can't do it. $15 for a Halloween fatality? It's filled with microtransactions, I guarantee you, because they're getting addicted to this shit. And I told you about this. I told you about this in the last Mortal Kombat, that this shit is starting to seep over. I've seen NetherRealms, whether it's WB or whether it's NetherRealms, I don't give a fuck, because it's affecting us. One of my big asks has always been, they need to add 1 or 2 more fatalities to the characters in the game. Maybe you could find them in the crypt and cool little unlocks. Well, they heard us, and they took that as a way to push their live service, season passes, skins, and yet another way to charge on top of the game's $70 purchase price. Pay me $15, a huge chunk of a full price game for 1 more fatality? Fuck off!
I think just like the direct comparison of actually having a full feature-rich fighting game is finally there. It no longer is only NetherRealm as the ones to do it. And now Tekken is also doing the same thing seemingly, where like Tekken is a fully ass feature-rich game that's going to bring in a lot of casual audience. And those casuals are going to want to watch tournaments, they're going to want to watch YouTube videos, they're going to want to see people playing the game. Community just thrives as a result of like a good game being a good game, you know?
I was worried this shit would happen with how successful that mobile Mortal Kombat crap has been for WB and NetherRealm. And I was right. I even mentioned in the last MK Angry review, this stuff is starting to creep in, and it's killing our love for the franchise. Reverse course now.
Crossplay, MK11 had it in beta, never completed it. Non-existent thus far, we know it's coming, but right now non-existent 4 months into MK1. There are missing game modes and constant silence from the devs. Whack Pro Tour, just really going in on a lot of this stuff. Kader says your game is already on the brink of death within 4 months. You need a miracle to save it. I am absolutely embarrassed of being a Mortal Kombat fan right now.
As it stands, maybe Mortal Kombat 6 out of 10 and a 2 out of 10 for that shit Nintendo port that should not at all have been released.
My Train to Busan got delayed.
And when they separate, you're in the match. On the Switch, they clash, say a quick 2 lines of dialogue.
So far, I've got no signs of Targon. Perhaps Earthrealm has her immune.
And then stare awkwardly at each other for about half a minute, while textures pop in and out all around them. I'm just gonna let this play out so you can get a full sense of how bad it actually is. Loading pains are felt the most in both invasions mode and online play.
Number 4. And here we are, 6 years later, with Gen 2 of the PlayStation VR experience. We reviewed previously the PSVR 1 in a hardware review. Some of the not...
The
because the internet is just too horny and hateful.
Again, a top history and this mysterious look to it.
All of which would honestly have been fine if they had done a better job ripping it off, instead of feeling like you're playing the RC Cola version of Columbia.
It's like a communist utopia powered by advanced robots. And while the best part is clearly the well-designed environments, the gunplay, the looks of it.
Saving data.
Into the community feedback,
they purposely removed your waypoints that you had in the Eternal Realm so that they can then make it an objective for you to go back and collect them.
It's not, I'm not kidding.
Boys in the cupboard.
I mean, we tried to do something new.
Missions and side quests I've ever...
I don't know. Like, you can't watch this. It's so frustratingly boring. Like, nothing's happening. There's nothing to comment on. Like, nobody in their right mind would have played this game to begin with, right? Like, it's just like, wow. Western AAA developers are bad. Like, who could have possibly told you that? Like, it's crazy. Okay. Let's see. Is anything else happening? Nothing was really happening today. I really don't. Maybe on slow days, I should consider taking days off and focusing on writing. I don't know. I keep wanting to. I keep running into this issue where, like, there are just some days where there's just not a whole lot going on and things to talk about. Let's see. What else do I need to talk about? It's just. Uh. Let's see. Yeah, everyone's just talking about Switch 2, like the Bloomberg thing, which I already debunked last night. Let's see. Nintendo.
Let's say, I don't know, a squirrel, he's like the whatever guy that says go, so he says go, and, immediately, like, within, like, the first, I don't know, not even minute, like, 30 seconds, the tortoise, his tank is empty, he's
I've watched this video, like, 2 or 3 times. Like, listening to DBDR, like, just rant about... like media like this and apply his ridiculous ideology. It's like the funniest thing in the world to me. Like, it's so funny. Like, I just can't wrap my head around how this guy is just this pathetic. Like, holy
He's slow. Yeah.
Did he just add this to the story?
Well, the tortoise didn't start trying to run.
No.
He stayed slow and steady. Which, a lot...
But that's a complete lie.
The idea, though, is, like, if you're consistent and you show up every day, like hard work can outwork talent when talent doesn't work hard. Like, you know, just because somebody's more talented than you doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna win. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Better than it is good. Talent always just effortlessly wins, bro. I guess when it comes to getting bitches' vagina,
You might hurt
period.
Hey, I went.
His balls off, even though tank just really, it just never gets empty. So he just immediately sprints, and you know, the tortoise, he's you know, just trying his balls off, even though it never began. It was over before it started, right? And you know, the tortoise, he's got like his headphones in, he's listening to like,
Well,
I don't
Al
know,
for
David
Five
Goggin.
says, talking about being cocky in fights, if I remember correctly, this January the 19th was the 5th anniversary of the Warski-Tonka fight.
Wow!
It's been a half decade since Knoxville. 5 years since Knoxville.
That's nuts.
That is crazy.
That is nuts, bro.
And, you know, just like gaslighting.
And he literally, like, that ruined his career. I went out with his intro music. Happy days.
Him and screaming at him, you ain't shit, get your fucking ass up, do shit. And, you know, the tortoise is just like crying to himself, never give up, I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna win. Even though, guess what the hare does? I mean, he might fall asleep, but guess what? That motherfucker, what? He's not gonna let that shit slide. You know, he's putting on a timer. He knows he's gonna humiliate the shit out this motherfucker for even dare stepping on his territory of thinking he can beat him in a race. So what does the hare do? He actually, so he goes straight to the finish line.
He's right about the intentions of the hare in this portion, but that's what makes it even more humiliating later.
Yeah.
See, he's like dabbing on him, and it's like, yeah, and then he lost. But let's hear it.
Immediately, right? He just runs. He's so fast. He goes around it because he doesn't want to finish yet. He gets dopamine hits every single time this motherfucker wins. You know, every time he mobs, the dopamine. He's got all this positive reinforcement. He's got everything going in his head. He's just laughing his ass off like a maniac, just like running. So you know, the hare, he does another lap, and on his second lap, you know, because he's gonna pass the tortoise again. So
Coila, Dante, Warski, really? Watch the first part of our show.
Yeah, man.
When we're
Ralph
done,
only made like what, 90? No, he made 106 today.
minus 20%.
Oh yeah, so he made $80.
In 6.5 hours.
See you, Roth.
what does the hare do?
Peace, Roth.
He takes a nice shit on the top of his head, you know, like a swirling one. And you know, the tortoise, like he's trying to be like unfazed by it because he knows like he's got to give it his all. He can't stop and brush it off the top of his head. He's just gotta, you know, keep going. He's still crying to himself, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna make it, we're all gonna make it. And you know, the hare, he's just still does another lap around. And on the second lap, he finds the tortoise's wife, maybe passes out a little bit. I don't know. I mean, he's got all the time in the world. The tortoise is pretty fucking slow. So yeah, he finds the tortoise's wife, and then does
DBTR revealing his inner cuckold fantasies.
What happened?
This says a lot more about him than it does about the story of the tortoise and the hare, you know? It says a lot more about him than it does about society.
Bro, what the hell?
lap around. Takes another dump on his head. You know, at this point, the tortoise is
Alive and well in Israel just has in chat. This guy has just added details. Yeah.
A lot.
Crazy amount of details.
What a retelling. This is almost as good as his Grinch retelling, but it might be better, to be honest.
Yeah. You know, he has no idea what's going on. And, you know, he's got like the shit on his head, and he's just like completely defeated at this point, just like trying his ass off. He still thinks in his head, guys, that he's gonna win. Even though technically the hare won like 3 times already. He just didn't, you know, go through the finish line, just went around it. And, you know, he just keeps doing this over and over again. And the tortoise, you know, he's just so slow. He's just trying to, you know, catch up. And finally, you know, after the longest time in the world, right? The hare is just going, he's going everywhere. He's doing everything. You know, he just, right, like literally, right as he's at the finish line, you know, he sees like the little, with like that connector thing that you got to run through to like break it, and that's who wins. So he's thinking in his head, he's like, I got this, I can't fucking believe it, oh my god. Still blasting in his head all the shit, and the hair, because the hair ain't losing. He literally, so right, like the tortoise, he's like right there, he's like a couple feet away from it. The hair just runs.
Is he gonna change the ending?
Yeah. Right next to him, and then stops like right at the finish line. Like the hair's just standing right there. Just like he could literally just walk like a millimeter and he'll win. He's just like right on the finish line, and the tortoise like, no, please, no, I got this, never give up. And the second, like a millisecond before, the tortoise goes through the finish line, the hare just like walks right past him, and wins.
That's not the story.
Well, why does he feel the need to tell it in this way?
Why did it change the story?
Because this is what would really happen.
Really happen. Take the black pill.
Okay.
Chad's always.
Does it make you feel better, bro? Like, does it make you feel better?
It's pretty sad.
It's just like, just because Chad will be more successful than you doesn't mean you couldn't be a success yourself either. Like, what the There's always gonna be a person.
Wife, okay.
Like.
I guess, I don't know, maybe he'll take another shit. After he wins, he takes another shit on his head, and then his girlfriend, or wife again. And then, what? 5 months later, the tortoise's wife finds out she's pregnant and doesn't want to say anything. So that's like the story of life.
Yes.
I don't know, the hare, the tortoise, he should have known. Like, why would you do that, dude?
Why even try,
and
bro?
I bet, the whole thing about the original story, like, even if the tortoise did by a miracle, like, it would be a literal miracle and complete luck, because the next race he would get smoked. But if it was, if you won by sheer luck, right, Mr. Collector would just smack him upside the head, I feel like this happens with, like, a lot of guys who, like, they'll date. Like, they'll start dating, and they'll have, like, their high school sweetheart. They'll date their high school sweetheart, and then a couple years go by, and then, they'll break up, and they think in their head, like, well, it was so easy the first time. Let me go get back in the dating game. And they find out, like, it's super difficult now, and, it's just, like,
what?
Completely different, and, they have, like, that one lucky experience. It's sort of like the survival.
What?
This doesn't relate at all. Tortoise in there.
I can't imagine that. Like, I really got to start watching more DBDR. He is hilarious. It is like, it's so ridiculous. Yeah, I probably should just end the stream. I'm not too enthusiastic about what's been going on. There's just nothing. It's just been a slow day in general, I think. Yeah, so I think that'll be it for today. We'll call it quits, and I will see you all next time. Thank you all for tuning in to the LeeLive. I'll see you all tomorrow.